We're back at Sullivan Steakhouse. I'm Sean Gale for MouthpieceSports.com, here with Ronnie Bull, Jim Turner, Tim Terrell. We were talking about our history in the NFL, what we've experienced, things that stand out in our mind. Now, Tim, you played for the Steelers. Now, that's a storied franchise. That's what we call old money. What's it like to play for that old money?
I think really at any of the teams it was a dream. But and I played for Chuck Noll too, so there was a tremendous amount of history there. I think they've only had how many coaches in Pittsburgh's history? 3 or 2 or I don't know what it was. It's not a lot. You know, Sean, every team that I played for, it was like a fantasy for me. It was a dream. I would wake up and I would say, I can't believe I get to do this. Pittsburgh was no different. It was near the end of my career. Unfortunately, they had Merrill Hodge at the time, and playing in that state. Yeah,
horrible player.
Merrill Hodge.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Where were you drafted? Were you drafted or free agent?
I was a free agent. I was a quarterback in college, and I made it in the NFL as a fullback.
Did you get a lot of letters and stuff or phone calls inquiry about you signing with different teams or stuff like that? Who all did you talk to after you finished graduate? Did you get calls from teams, or did you go contact them, or what?
I wasn't drafted, so I got looked at by 4 teams. Dallas, Seattle, and Green Bay. They wanted me as a defensive back. Then Atlanta came and wanted me as a fullback. And I went to the Falcons because I felt that I was a quarterback, a running quarterback, and I felt my opportunity to make the team, because, you know, you get a very short opportunity in training camp to do it. And I thought, well, I know how to run the ball, so I went as a fullback, knowing that my ticket was going to be special teams. So I did the whole special teams thing and made a career out of it. 7 years.
How about you?
Well, I was a 7th round draft pick, so you know, and there was only 7 rounds as you know the year I was drafted. So, I mean, I was dang near a free agent. I think I was the 222nd pick, and it may have been 236 picks that year. So it was one of those things. You know, I was thankful to get drafted. You know, people, you know, you win in the 7th round, or everyone wants to go higher. But when somebody actually takes you and you get that opportunity,
being a 7th round draft choice is good. You know, we went 15 rounds.
Oh man!
Back we went it. Now just 7th, and everything after that is free agent. So
yeah, exactly.
To be chosen in the 7th round is
huge.
Good. It's huge.
Well, of course. I mean, back in those days, we didn't have film to rely on to judge talent back in your days. It was still photos they used.
They just scouted. Well, they had scouts, you know. Fido Murphy was one of the scouts that went around to different ones.
Well, you bring up a good point, but back in those days, who were the scouts? Were they ex-players, ex-coaches?
People that Hallis knew. You know, they had a network of people all the country that I guess he hired that would coach, scout different teams and stuff like that, or players that they heard of. You know, the rigmarole of television now, the draft choice and stuff, they take them into New York and stuff like that. I found out I was going to lunch at Baylor in the chow hall. And the lady comes up to me and said, "Ronnie, you got a long-distance telephone call." I picked up the phone and said, "Hello." He says, "Ronnie," he says, "this is George Hallis." He says, "We just drafted you #1. That's how I found out.
Wow. And
he said, "Now don't sign anything," because I'd also been drafted 2 days before by the Dallas Texans that are now the Kansas City Chiefs.
And that was the AFL?
And that was the AFL. So
Oh,
they fought each other back then before they came together and got it all one draft. We had 2 different drafts, and so they kind of negotiated. That's the reason salaries started going up a little bit, because of the competition between the 2 leagues.
Right. Now, the story I got with the competition between the AFL, the rival league, was bringing in a brash, fair-haired, media-friendly quarterback from Alabama to change the idea, to put the AFL on the map, and that was Joe Namath.
Joe Namath, sure.
And at that time, I believe that the average salary for quarterbacks, and I'm thinking Brody for the San Francisco 49ers, he was in the neighborhood of $35,000. And Namath was offered a contract in the mid-six figures. And that pretty much began the process of the competition that eventually merged together and became the NFL. Now, that's a history lesson that I think we all can appreciate, because we've all been able to pay our bills by being in this industry.
Well, it took a lot of people in the AFL, Lamar Hunts and that type of that, had a lot of old money behind them that they were able to withstand that the bleak period to get them built up to be as popular as they are, you know, and because they had that money behind them, they weren't worried about 1 or 2 years. They were looking at the long term, which.
Well, let me ask you this: what about the game today do you dislike? What is it that we can change and make better?
That's really a tough question. The game has really improved over when we played it. We didn't lift weights. We didn't watch our diet like they're doing now. We didn't have off-season training periods that they have now. You know, we went on and on and on. Our biggest thing, the thing that scared me to death, and I never had any problem, was the Hallis Mile. I hated that thing with a passion, and it was all psychological, you know, because I never had any trouble with it, but it was psychological that he would work on me. Now, you know, if you're not lifting weights and training in the off season, the chances of you coming back and making the team the next year is very doubtful. So there have been a lot of improvements over that. They're bigger, they're faster because of that. They lifted weights, you know. I can see Doug Atkins lifting weights, you know, today. Back then, the heaviest thing he lifted was a beer can, you know. That's most of the weightlifting he did, that type of thing.
Jim, what do you think?
I think that what I don't like about the game today is they seem to have a lot of athletes from this university called The Ohio State University.
Here we go. Here we go.
That they let come into the league, and you know, some of them are good, some of them are average and below it. But it just seems, you know, this university has the NFL fooled, and you know, if they could limit some of those players coming in, you know, I think the NFL and football in general will be a lot better off.
It got cold in here all of a sudden.
Yeah, I know.
Chilly. Like someone opened the window. How about you, Jim?
What do I think is, it's tough for me to listen to anyone complain. It just is. It really is. And I know there's all these things. And, you know, it's all relative. You know, it's just hard to believe that someone who makes it at that level, and when you hear the millions of dollars, and when they, regardless of the circumstances, it's just, it's tough to swallow. It's tough to hear someone complain about they signed a $35 million deal as opposed to a $40 million deal or something like that. And that I'll never get. But on the flip side, you're in the league. The average is 3 years, I think now. I mean, you're lucky if you play that long. So those, and I still think, I believe it's 95% of these contracts are not guaranteed. So
you're correct.
It's a short-lived thing, but even with that being said, it's a fantasy and it's a dream opportunity, you know, and it continues on. Like with this chapter, the Chicago chapter we have, I see guys that I played ball against from 25 years ago. We've got probably over 500 plus that live in Chicago that are retired ball players. Now, they don't all belong to the NFLPA retired players chapter, but they're out there, and I see a lot of them. I go to these events, and it's really a great, it's so fun for me to be able to be a part of that. And I hope that these kids nowadays take that into consideration next time they're complaining, because it's not a bad gig.
Well, you know what? For so long, we've talked about the ins and outs of the NFL, but it's true. This is a storied lifestyle that we've all have had a chance to lead. Don't go away. Come back and join us here at Sullivan Steakhouse. I'm Sean Gale, and this is MouthpieceSports.com.